Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin Seiler, and on behalf of everyone at Stuart Hall, I'd like to welcome you to our first of a few Tuesday talks, which now is our first admission event of the season. And when we get started, before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have a question, if you will add that to the chat box, I will then at the end of the Tuesday talk, we'll have a question and answer session where those will be answered by our panelists. So to get us started this morning, I would like to welcome Michael Robinson. Michael is our head of school at Stuart Hall, and Michael's going to tell you a little bit about our history and our progressive nature and great academics.
Part two. I welcome you. My name again is Michael Robinson. I'm the head of school. I want to thank you all for being with us as we share information about Stuart Hall School. We were founded in 1844, and we have been preparing young people for lives of intellectual curiosity, creativity, and contribution. That's our mission. It guides everything we do. Choosing to have your child attend Stuart Hall is a commitment of time and resources on every family's part. Most importantly, parents, you are trusting us as partners in each child's education and personal formation. And that's a trust we take very seriously. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today to learn more about us. We're here for you every step of the way as you explore your child's education and formation. From years of working with and listening to parents, we're confident that parents are seeking an environment for their children that will foster growth through meaningful, strong academic experiences that challenge young people academically and emotionally and prepare them for the rigors of college. Stuart Hall students are intelligent and they're well-rounded. Our academic program provides a highly engaging academic environment with life balance in a community of students and families who, importantly, share a commitment to character development, community, academic excellence, whole child education, and solid preparation for college and for life. We hear from parents and from colleges where Stuart Hall students matriculate that our alumni are resourceful, resilient students, ethical and compassionate citizens who make their communities better places. So clearly, I'm proud of Stuart Hall, our students, our teachers, and staff, and our families. I hope you enjoy our time together today, and that this will be just the beginning of a long conversation and a relationship. Thanks for being here. Robin, back to you.
I'd like to turn it over to Sharon Arn. Sharon is our Dean of Academics, and Sharon's going to explain a little bit about our curriculum. And once again, if you have questions, if you'll just add those to the chat box at the end of our time together, we'll have a question and answer section. Sharon, if you will unmute, that would be helpful.
I'm good.
Thank you.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Great, thanks for being here today. So I want to tell you a little bit about Stuart Hall School. We are a 6th through 12th grade college preparatory school. We serve day students and we serve students in grades 8 through 12 in boarding, both domestic and international. We are very proud of our program because we've worked hard over the last 10 years or so to study educational research and research-based strategies, all to develop a program that meets the needs of today's students. And I think the best way to explain our program is to share with you 3 main things. One, basically our desired outcomes of a Stuart Hall education. So what's the purpose of our program? What will our students be capable of once they leave here? Second, how we teach in the classrooms to reach these outcomes. And then thirdly, how we help students find meaning and purpose in their learning. These 3 key aspects of our academic program set us apart and make us different from other schools. So where do we begin? We basically begin at the end. What are our goals for our students having gone through Stuart Hall? Well, research tells us, higher education tells us, the workforce also have all shared that the education most of us experienced is not enough for our kids today. The 21st century has brought a whole new world of technology and innovation that we didn't experience growing up. And along with that, comes the need for students to be competent in what we call 21st century skills. General content knowledge and academic skill sets are not enough to thrive in society today. So at Stuart Hall, we have defined these competencies as our Stu Grad goals, which you can see here. And they are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, citizenship, and well-being. Now, it's fair to say that there are many schools across, no, stay on the other one, sorry. There are many schools across the country that are also talking about similar skills. But we're very proud that we have crafted a structure to be sure that these skills are taught and that students are not simply exposed to them. We use them basically as the center of everything that we do. We have a structure in place in our unit planning for our teachers to incorporate the teaching of these skills. As our teachers plan units, they set up their standards, their goals, their assessments, their activities. And the last filter that they use is this filter of Stu Grad goals. Collaboration is a good example because we basically collaborate in every class, but putting kids in groups doesn't mean you're teaching collaboration skills. We have a plethora of tools that we use to actually teach these skill sets, everything from rubrics with for young students that look like smiley faces and frowny faces to AP level collaboration rubrics of what different aspects of collaboration looks like. We have student self-reflection tools, we have peer assessments, we have definitions for what roles are in a collaborative setting, and we actually teach the collaboration skill sets. We also connect all of our co-curricular offerings and activities outside of the classroom to our Stu Grad goals. So everything from woodworking to fencing to moot court, which is similar to debate, they all have documented performance goals that lead to the development of Stu Grad goals. Even our sports do. Now, if you go to the other slide, I want to show you how far we have gone in crafting these goals. This is critical thinking. Here's an example. Beyond just the idea of each goal, we spent countless time analyzing exactly what that means. So what is critical thinking and how do you do it? Each one of our Stu Grad goals have subheadings, and they also have these questions. And we use these tools with our students so they actually learn the steps to these goals. It's interesting to note that as an adult group in our faculty, well-being was not one of our original Stu Grad goals 8 years ago. But we actually used this critical thinking strategy to reflect and review on our Stu Grad goals about 4 years ago. And in that process of reflecting and applying, we recognized that well-being was missing, and we wanted to add that as one of our Stu goals. Self-reflection is a major part of the learning, and that's our purpose. So how do we do this? You can go to the next slide. We use authentic learning strategies in class as much as we possibly can. Our purpose isn't to engage students in their learning and make it meaningful. And these strategies allow us to do that. They also provide the best learning outcomes that we have found and very clear pathways to Stu Grad goals. Project-based and problem-based learning are prevalent in all of our classes. From daily right now in Spanish classes, students collaborate to write stories and act them out in Spanish as they learn the language. So they learn the vocabulary and the grammar, then they write it properly, and then they speak it as they act it out in their plays almost daily, rather than working in textbooks and workbooks, which is not nearly as engaging. Some fun things in our biology and genetics classes. Oftentimes, students assume roles in court cases. Some are lawyers, some are members of the jury, etc., as they reenact a real court case that happened where the use of genetics was a defense for murder, or as they explore an espionage case between seed developing companies. The kids loved it. It was fun to watch. Our young artists work with businesses downtown to learn what it means to commission artwork for others and to create what someone else envisions. They did this in a project where students were enlisted by individual business members to paint a watering can. We have like a watering can theme in Stanton. The students had to go work with their client, listen to what they wanted, and then craft that onto the watering can. It wasn't about what the student wanted, it was what about their client wanted, what a true artist for commission does. It was quite an impressive set of skills to see. There's so much to share, but I want to show you more about one particular strategy. So on the next slide, of our authentic learning strategies, place-based learning, also known as community learning, has allowed us to take advantage of our beautiful little Stanton. Basically, it's just kids being out in the world. Stanton is urban, but we are small, we are safe urban, and we like to be out of school as much as we like to be in school. The students have been all over the city, learning and often solving problems for our community members. When we began our Stanton is Our Campus initiative, which is our community-based learning, years ago, one of the very first projects we ever did that we still like to share because it was one of those aha moments where we thought, this is really, really good learning, was when we had our advanced algebra class assist the Woodrow Wilson Presidential Library with a data collection and analysis project. Rather than the library paying a high price for an outside consulting firm, our math class did the work, and their final exam was presenting the results of their findings to the library board. A few years ago, a group of our students helped to design the layout for a new makerspace in town. And in exchange, we gained access for use of all of the makerspace had to offer. Our younger science classes assisted in an innovation company in town called iHub. And they helped to try to identify the appropriate drone use for a project that iHub was doing. So our kids worked with lots of different types of models of drones. They assembled them, they used them, they analyzed the pros and cons, and they offered their expert analysis up to the iHub people. We have had middle school math classes working in a bakery in town to learn how to create food service business models while they were learning their proportions and ratios and percentages and fractions in math class. The list goes on, but suffice to say, we love Stanton and we love place-based learning. And finally, on the next slide, as we work hard to build purpose of learning through our StuGrad goals, that's the purpose of everything that we do, and meaning of learning through our teaching strategies, engagement, and real-world problems. We also involve our students in every aspect of their learning through our mastery approach. We want them to own their learning. Mastery learning simply means that we identify learning goals for each course, and you can see them broken down to 3 categories here. We identify what the content knowledge of each course is, what the conceptual understandings will be, and what skill sets students will be capable of once they complete the course. We give students individualized feedback on their progress on these goals. So whereas in most schools, students take a test at the end of a unit, it's handed back to them. Let's say they get a C on it, and then they move on to the next unit. But they never really know what they learned and what they didn't learn. On our tests or projects or papers or whatever, all of the skills that we are assessing are identified, and students receive grades for every single one of those skills, not just one grade for the project. So the assessment might have 3 or 4 grades on it, not just one, so that students can understand what the skills they have gained proficiency on, which ones they are, and which skills that they still need to work on. And we don't move on. It's not like unit 1 is over, you guys see, let's move on. We don't do that. We continue working on the skills, and students build proficiency towards them. This approach allows students to understand what the goals are for the class, where they stand on these goals, and how to reach proficiency on these goals. And we keep working till they do. This is how our teachers partner, our students partner with our teachers to grow. You can go to the next slide. All of this is what we do at STU to provide our students with the education that they will need to thrive in the world that they will know in college and the world beyond that as adults. And we're very proud of our students, and we're very proud of our program.
Sharon, thank you very much. If I would have had a mastery-based learning curriculum, I think I would have done much better in high school, but we won't talk about that. Right now, I'd like to go on and introduce you. Well, let me say, if you do have questions about the curriculum, again, please use the chat box and we'll have Sharon answer those questions at the end of the session. But what does all this mean for when you leave high school? What we do is, I'd like to introduce now Hannah Slechta. Hannah is a graduate of the class of 2016, and she is going to talk a little bit about what she's been doing since Stuart Hall, since she's graduated, and then about her experience in college and how Stuart Hall prepared her for college and beyond. So Hannah, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So a little bit about my experience right after graduating Stu and what I've been doing since then. I, as you said, graduated in 2016, and I went to Cornell University to do my undergrad. And at Cornell, I studied linguistics as my major, and I did minors in business and French. So a little bit all over the board there. And then I graduated in 2020, quite the year to graduate. And I've been doing my master's in teaching English to speakers of other languages at the University of Georgia since then. And I've also been teaching part-time at a nonprofit, teaching immigrants and refugees who are learning English as their second language as adults. So I think your next question was how Stu prepared me for all of that?
Yes, so we always talk about, you know, there are lots of college prep schools across the country, both day and boarding, but do they prepare you for college? And in particular, how did Stuart Hall prepare you that maybe other places that you may have gone did not?
Okay.
Or would not?
So there are a lot of ways. I think probably three major ways that Stuart Hall prepared me. First, obviously, is academically. You need to be academically ready to get into college and then to succeed once you're there. And the skills that I learned at Stuart Hall definitely transferred. I think you were talking a lot about critical thinking and all these skills, and it's definitely more your skills, like what you can do, that counts once you get to college. Obviously, the content knowledge is important, but if you don't have the skills, it doesn't really matter. So I knew how to think, the critical thinking. Linguistics is all about problems, thinking, analysis. So I had the skills for that. And also writing. I was honestly astounded when I got to college because I thought that the writing instruction that I received at Stuart Hall was, I assumed everyone learned like that. And then I got to college and peer reviewing and stuff, not everyone could write the way that we wrote at Stuart Hall, because it's not like we just studied it in our English classes, although English classes were wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Fleming. But in our history classes, in our other humanities classes, we were learning how to make convincing arguments, how to communicate through writing, how to, like, not only the mechanics of writing, but how to be a really convincing and successful writer. So that's what got me through half my college classes. So academics is number one. The relationships I made at Stuart Hall is number two. I think that the friends I made at Stu are going to be my friends forever. I mean, a couple of them were bridesmaids in my wedding last summer. I mean, I talk to them, some of them still almost every week. And in college, when I was in a new place, I was still talking to them regularly. We've been there for each other all the time since Stuart Hall. And so those relationships are really valuable. But I didn't only make relationships from Stanton. I also, at Stuart Hall, was able to do something that is not so common in the small town South, and that's meet people from around the world. I don't think that there are very many places anywhere near Stanton where you could do that. I made friends from China. I made friends from Rwanda, friends from Europe. And that's actually what got me into languages in the first place. That's what put me on this path to where I studied linguistics, and I'm now working with this nonprofit teaching immigrants, because I met these people from around the world who had different cultures, different languages, and it really opened up a window to a new world that I don't think I would have seen, and I don't think I would have been as prepared for the wide world you meet at college and beyond if I hadn't had that opportunity.
Hannah, that's great. It sounds like you took great advantage, and I think you brought up a really good point that, even though, and Sharon talked about our safe campus and safe town that we actually is a part of our campus, but within the town and within Stuart Hall, you met so many people from different cultures across the country, across the world, and I think it's actually fascinating and wonderful that that's what took you into linguistics. Another thing about the school, I think, is that it's very inclusive, and not just in the classroom, as we've talked about, but also maybe after school on the playing fields and extracurricular. So can you tell us a little bit about what you were involved in while you were at school?
So when I was in middle school, I played basketball. So that was my only actual sport thing, because I did karate outside of school, not connected to Stuart Hall. So that took up a lot of my time. But during the school hours, I did some of the other extracurriculars. Like I did theater a little bit. The theater program was really strong. All my friends were in theater, doing the plays after school, theater classes. And then I loved art. And I actually took the art class a couple times, to where I was sometimes just would do a different project if I'd already done the project. And then the clubs were really cool. I know that the club system has changed a little bit since I was there, but one of the teachers was leading comitatus, which is like medieval sword fighting. So we would get all decked out in lacrosse gear, and we would practice medieval sword fighting techniques from these old manuscripts. He was a history teacher. And once we built up all the techniques, we actually would have little bouts in the yard at Stu. So I don't think that's something that you see very many places.
I don't either. That's awesome. I would have loved to watch. I mean, and how fun for you guys. And I love using the lacrosse uniforms. It's excellent. Well, and maybe a couple of your favorite classes while you were at Stuart Hall?
Yeah. So that's hard.
That's okay. Okay.
No, I really liked the history classes a lot. I think that's speaks to the skill of our history teachers, but it's also just a personal preference of mine. The ancient world history class was amazing. I still think about stuff that I learned there. It's kind of surprising how often ancient world history comes up. And then we also had a philosophy and religion course when I was there that is also something that not a lot of people have been exposed to, and I think definitely more people should. I went on to help found and help lead the Interfaith Council at Cornell, collaborating between, I was helping to lead the Protestant ministry there, and so I was collaborating with leaders of the Muslim community, the Jewish community, the Hindu community to understand each other, put on joint events, and the exposure and understanding to other cultures and religions at Stuart Hall was really important to that.
That's great. Hannah, thank you. Your students are very, very lucky to have you. I can tell. So thank you. Yes, I agree. Bravo. So how do we get there from our academics to college? We have a great college counseling program. So right now I'd like to introduce Ashley Fleming, and Ashley's going to talk to everyone about the steps and process in our college counseling program. Ashley?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. My name is Ashley Fleming, and I am the Director of College Counseling at Stuart Hall. And I'm here today because we view college counseling as not only an extension of the academic program that you just heard about, but really embedded in it, interwoven in it. That doesn't mean focusing on test scores or admissions requirements in 9th or 10th grade. What it does mean is acknowledging that our entire program is designed to help students grow into adulthood and productive and meaningful lives. So the purpose of college counseling is to help students find their strengths and interests, make sure they're taking advantage of all the opportunities available at Stuart Hall, and then to communicate who they are and what they've learned through the application process. So in that sense, this work starts long before senior year with conversations and just getting to know students, talking with them about how classes and activities are going, what they'd like to pursue in the upcoming academic year, what they're learning about themselves and what they enjoy, and where they're excelling as they move through our program. Based on those conversations, I might encourage a student to take a more advanced class in an area of interest, or maybe try out an activity that's not necessarily on their radar. Again, not for the purpose of building the application, but for the purpose of really engaging students in our program from the start. Robin, you can move to the next slide. So again, early high school is a time for exploration, really trying things out, beginning to plan for a potential academic trajectory, looking at course sequences, available electives, co-curricular experiences, and just really getting students thinking beyond this year to a potential four-year plan that is still pretty flexible. As students move into 10th and 11th grades, we're hoping they're finding that handful of activities or maybe academic areas where they can make focused and sustained commitments and eventually become leaders. Next slide. So that by the time they are in 11th and 12th grades, they are ready to articulate what they've done, what their goals are, their plans for the future when it is time to apply to college. I do approach this work partially from the perspective of a writing teacher. And one of my goals is to help students fully express who they are, what they've achieved in those application materials. But again, the college application process is really just the culmination of the program we offer, which is driven by a desire to help students find what drives them and what inspires them as they move into the next phase of their lives.
Oops. Ashley, do you have any other, are you good? And if anybody has any questions, we would love to, we'll turn on all of our panelists' mics, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us. And please ask questions in the chat box, and we'll have those answered. We will also have a number of future Tuesday talks, and the next one is on November 16th. And I will put that screen back up in momentarily if we don't have any questions. But we will also have this version of Tuesday talks on our website, so feel free to share that. We will also send those that participated in this webinar. We'll send you the link so you can share it with other families. So we have one question. What are the requirements for international study to apply, especially for 9th grade application? I can answer that. We require basically what we require for our domestic. So it's a 2 teacher recs, one from an English teacher, or if they've had English, one from a math teacher. One of the things that we do that might be different from other schools is that we also, though, use our own placement tests to see where those students would fit in as far as our academic curriculum, and what skill sets they have, and then what class they would go into, mainly for math and science. So those are also 9th grade. We ask the students for a writing sample in English, and just to the best of their ability. And then we have, obviously, if you can't visit campus, we have a Zoom interview. Any other questions? Okay, do any of our panelists have anything they would like to add? Sharon, would you like to add anything to the 9th grade requirements about curriculum? We don't, at the moment, we don't necessarily have actual scores, a minimum score on the TOEFL or the TOEFL Junior.
Yeah, basically when a student applies, we look to see what they have accomplished already, what past prior school transcripts look like. We look to make sure that we can meet their needs as far as their English level goes and their math level. Those two areas we sort of analyze very carefully based on our program and the goals and the skill sets of each of those different levels of math classes and English classes or ESL classes. So everyone's truly individual, to be honest with you. There's not like here's a recipe, you have to fit into these parameters. We actually look at every student individually to see what their needs are and to see what our program can connect with them. But the general application pieces that Robin shared is true. We look for transcripts, we look for recommendation letters, and we look at math level is a big deal, and English level.
Thank you.
Sure.
Robin, I'd like to add something about Stanton as our campus and our proximity to the downtown.
Sure.
I've had 3 children of my own go through Stuart Hall. My youngest is a senior. And I still remember when she first started at the campus downtown, and her confidence exploded. You know, she came in as a 6th grader and, you know, was very shy, and there was not a lot of self-confidence built up inside of her. And as soon as she and her friends were able to wander around downtown and feel so grown up and yet in this safe environment, it was amazing. It just took a couple of weeks for this transformation. And it's just continued to get stronger as she's gotten older and still after school shares these experiences, these grown-up experiences with her friends, and does homework downtown with them. It's just been really exciting and a unique opportunity for her and for us.
Thank you, Carrie. I think that's very true. We've talked about, you know, our curriculum being college prep, our college counseling, but what oftentimes you don't see is really that independence that Stuart Hall helps with our students, and that you don't get that a lot of places. A lot of places they're either, especially boarding schools, they are in rural places where they aren't able to walk down to town on the weekends and grab a cup of coffee or meet friends. And I really think it's one of those steps that is really important for independence in college that to be honest, quite often students don't get. And then when they get to college, frankly, they're lost for a little bit because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, I was going to second that I did feel like I gained a lot of independence at Stuart Hall, both in the school and in its proximity to downtown, and the ability to just go down there and be with my friends out in the world, because a lot of people did get to college, and you know, freshmen are infamous for being late to class their whole first semester, poor time management skills, you know, very little self-regulation and getting things done. But coming out of Stuart Hall, I had learned enough independence that I was able to hit the ground running at college, and it was a breeze.
That's, Hannah, thank you. I mean, that's, you know, you're hearing it from somebody who actually experienced it. So I really thank you for your insight.
Robin, I'd like to just add one thought. You used the word inclusive a little while back, and I would just like to, I'm sure we'll touch on this in future Tuesday talks as well, but just to mention in the context of this college prep environment and the development of academic skills and time management skills and all the things that students like Hannah take into college and are very successful. Stuart Hall is also a community that is very inclusive, where students are really appreciated and welcomed for what makes them distinctive and individual. It could be anything from an area of interest. It could be whether it's as an athlete or as an artist, somebody who's deeply engaged in service, and everything in between, and all the ways that Stuart Hall is diverse in terms of race and ethnicity and religion. Students really being invited to bring their full selves to school every day and to feel very comfortable and confident, discovering more and more of who they are as an individual and appreciating all of that in their classmates as well. It's a very special, authentic quality about Stuart Hall.
I agree. Thank you. Well, I would like to thank everybody for joining us. And as I mentioned, this is a series of Tuesday talks. Our next talk is November 16th, followed by the 30th, and then 2 in December. Again, these will also be recorded and live on our website. We hope you will join us for the entire series, but if not, we certainly hope that you will go onto our website or email us and we will send you the recording. And for all of us at Stuart Hall, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see your children or your students on campus. We are on campus, and for our day in domestic borders, we are giving tours, and we're open for visitors. So please give us a call, and thank you again for joining us, and have a good day.